Hello. All right. Seems like we are ready to go here. The door is closed. So, first of all, welcome to our panel discussion here today. Our topic today is importance of industry collaborations in reimagining and revolutionizing the insurance underwriting. As you all know, the technology companies, the service providers, the insurance carriers, the brokers, all of us are innovating, constantly innovating, leveraging new technologies to do our businesses better. But what is really missing at this time, from my perspective, is how we can actually collaborate better across the industry, across the aisles, and really produce the best outcomes and results as much as possible. And that comes from a commitment to collaboration to begin with. That comes with a mutual trust in each other. That comes with understanding each other's pain points better. It comes with breaking down those silos. It comes with actually really pushing the boundaries of innovation as much as possible. So I am joined here by our technology partners, and we would love to hear from them how they have been collaborating across the aisle with different companies, and how they have been able to really reimagine the underwriting process. That's what we're going to talk a little bit more about today. In the underwriting space, as you might have heard, some of you are in the insurance. I know I got to meet them earlier in the morning. It can actually take anywhere from 2 to 8 weeks, by the way, in the commercial underwriting space. There are a lot of opportunities to use the technology and really break down those silos. So we provide the best experiences to underwriters, best experiences to our brokers, and best experience ultimately to our policyholders, our customers. So without further ado, let me introduce our panel first. I'm joined here by Andrew Kalatow, Executive Industry Partner from Uncork. On my right here is Bhaskar Kalita, goes by nickname BK. So I might say Bhaskar or BK both here. Leads our financial services and insurance business unit for Quantify. And by the way, myself, I am Vikas Sachdeva. I lead the advisory services practice for Quantify. We hope to actually have some discussion that I have prepared some questions for both of them, but we'll leave enough time for you to ask questions also, so we get to hear from you also, and hopefully can answer some of your questions. So let me start with Bhaskar. Bhaskar, as you know, solving the transformational problems in different areas within insurance, working with hyperscalers, working with insurance companies, working with brokers and agents here, have been pretty much in our DNA since inception for Quantify. So can you talk through how Quantify really collaborates with customers and partners to really collaborate better and really deliver the outstanding results that we all strive for?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me here. I'll just take 10 seconds to talk about Quantify first. For people who doesn't know us, we are an AI-first digital engineering firm focused on solving problems with the help of data and AI. Our maturity mantra goes by SVP, specialization, verticalization, productization, which basically hardening the tech, finding the industry, and then productizing offerings that can solve problems at a rapid speed. Ever since our inception in all these three phases, our goal has been to be the connective tissue in this whole ecosystem, bringing hyperscalers, ISV partners, silicon partners, SDK partners, all coming together to create cutting-edge solutions which can solve problems. I mean, for hyperscalers, you're talking about AWS's, Googles of the world. We are premier partners with them for many years now. We're talking about ISV partners, tech partners, Uncork, one of them with whom we work very closely. Silicon partners, you're talking about NVIDIA, where we work a lot with them in terms of how do you solve problem on the edge, on-prem. Then you were talking about SDK partners like TensorFlows, you're talking about PyTorch, etc. Right? So it's been on our DNA. Some examples, how do we partner? I'll quote two. One, for the largest long-term care carrier in the country, technology partner, we and the carrier came together to create an industry-specific document AI solution, which will help them simplify their entire claims process. Which means that you start with, you can cut costs down, right from getting the claim from the nurses. It's a long-term care carrier. They take care of people with disabilities and long needs. So right from taking care of invoices, doctors' notes, etc., how do you reduce the whole cycle time and make this process more efficient? So we all came together, and the solution that we are building can now be leveraged by any other industry carrier. So that's number one. Number two, this is obviously not in the insurance space, but I think it's worth mentioning. We are a strategic partner for Coca-Cola, where we have built a lot of AI solutions in the warehousing space, using computer vision, using statistical ML, where you can identify better ordering mechanisms, help convenience stores reduce waste costs, better warehouse management, where you can use computer vision, put them on forklifts, pick up the right items, and you reduce waste. And so what we build those solutions for them, and now we are together with Coca-Cola, we are taking it to all the bottlers outside. So it's a partnership. And similarly, now coming to this topic, which is insurance, right now as we speak, Uncork, Quantify, and one of our hyperscalers, Google here, we are all working together for one of the carriers, one of the largest commercial carriers, where we are reducing the whole cycle time of underwriting, where right now it's 8 weeks. The whole idea is to make it near real time. So in short, to answer the question, partnership is in our DNA, and it is more important, it's the need of the hour. Without collaboration, finding industry-defining solutions will be very difficult.
Yeah, so thank you, Bhaskar. That's a very interesting viewpoint, of course. But I would like to hear from you also, Andrew. As we just heard, right, that there is a lot of technology collaboration needed across the technology players. Yeah. But to me, it just doesn't end with the technology. It's really the industry, needs to come together in collaboration here. Yeah. In your sense, what is the true X factor that you are seeing, how you and Uncork are seeing in bringing all these players together to achieve those, fantastic results overall?
Thanks so much, Vikas. So on the theme of collaboration, there's a lot of different slices, right? We talk about collaboration. The first and most important, I think, is internal to any organization, right? Is you've got your IT and your business, and the closer that they're together, the more that they're working together, they have that shared vision for that platform. And the shared vision is really what's going to take you eventually to build wherever it is you're going, this idea for the platform. Because at the end of the day, underwriting is at the heart of your business. It's your differentiator. It's what makes you special. And so having that shared vision, being able to work closely together, and we know that the Uncork platform enables that with rapid, you can do rapid development, rapid deployment, having folks on the business do some of the configuration, really shortening the relationship. But also understanding the broader ecosystem, because as we mentioned, there's a lot of things in underwriting that are ubiquitous to everyone. Everyone is going to hit a clearance model, everyone's going to hit a rater, everyone's going to hit a risk model, everyone's going to take some kind of submission, move it through the pipes. So the question is, what is industry specific? What is industry agnostic? What's the generic stuff that we can all kind of agree on, right? And then what's going to be your special sauce? And how do you go make that happen? And how do you go to the hundreds of different providers out in the organization? I think Uncork, we have 270 industry partners in terms of technology solutions, something to that effect. So how do you go out and say, okay, these providers are going to help me build this solution. These SI are going to help me, put my vision together. We're going to use Uncork to stitch everything together and really come out. That's a decision that you have to be very disciplined with. But it all comes out to understanding what the vision is, and then thinking big, but starting small, saying, how do I build something quick, something that gets everyone excited, something that gets everyone behind that vision, and have it snowball from there. The amount of times we built a POC and we've gone to roadshow it, and somebody said, this actually works in my business, this works in my corner. Be like, well, half of what we built works for you already. This is all extensible. So it's really about growing collaboration that way, I believe.
Oh, that's wonderful. I just heard you say a few good words here that I'm going to reiterate here. Think big and start small, right? And we have all seen that rather than boiling the ocean, sometimes it's really good to start small, but you need to keep that sort of the big picture in mind and where you're really trying to go. So, BK, I'm going to turn over to you now. Both of you touched upon the collaboration aspects here. But let me start from you in terms of the service provider angle here, Quantify. What role Quantify plays or service provider play in this bringing everybody together here? If you could highlight a few points there, please.
Sure. We act as a connective tissue. You have the technology, you have the industry coming together. The technology obviously is the backbone, right? These are horizontal technology solutions. You then bring your carriers, your brokers, or the industry comes with their business processes, their needs, and what are the value drivers. And the service provider or somebody implementing the solution obviously sits in the middle. First and foremost, it's important to understand the value drivers. What will create the business impact? And how fast can we create the business impact, right? I think those two questions needs to be answered, and the SI needs to play an important role in terms of orchestrating the movement in terms of finding those two answers. Once you have those two answers laid out, then the pieces of the puzzle starts falling in place, and then you can start stitching the solution together. So, short answer is the SI has to play a connective tissue role here.
Wonderful. So I picked up two great terms. One is the connected tissue, bringing all of these different players together from the industry. Second is to focus on value about business value overall that the solution needs to deliver. So Andrew, building on that connected tissue and value drivers theme here, and working closely with Hancock, I know there's a lot of focus on building those user experiences overall, thinking about the business automation and process automation, bringing all these players together from an integration standpoint. But the key to me is how do you shorten time to market? So if you can talk about from Hancock's viewpoint in this and how the adoption works in these large-scale transformation programs like underwriting that we are taking.
No, that's an excellent point. So when you think about time to market or time to value, it's definitely something that is critical to the overall success of these applications. So many times you can spend 8-9 months in just the information gathering phase and defining requirements. Then you can spend another half a year in a false start on a development build that doesn't work out, and now you're 2-3 years in and your visions change, your mandates change. Meanwhile, at the end of the day, we are trying to create something rapid, something that's going to touch your underwriters as quickly as possible. It's going to touch your agents, it's going to touch your customers, because all of these applications are going to be organic. They're going to grow with their users. They're going to grow with the need over there. Like we've seen quite a few applications, particularly on the MGA side, on the RQB side. These are 4 to 6 month deployments for some large customer-facing product, B2C, B2. I remember, I think the quickest one we did was COVID-related insurance, and we stood that up in 4 weeks. So they had an underwriting model. We built a portal. We built access. If you wanted to buy COVID business interruption insurance, 4 weeks, right? And so that's a market that didn't exist probably 9 months later, right? So speed to market was the entire win for that overall thing. So how we do that is obviously a function of the no-code platform, about being able to build rapidly. It's also a function of a lot of the accelerators and expertise that we have on the platform, because we've done this with, at this point, dozens and dozens of insurers, some of the leaders in the marketplace. We understand the challenges, we understand the problem, and we have the object models, we have the accelerators, we have the widgets to get you there quicker, right? Because at the end of the day, whenever you're going out and you're getting funding for these projects, this is a big risk, this is a big commitment for everyone involved if you're a buyer. And so the idea is however we can de-risk it on the delivery side from a speed side, essentially saying like, oh, you can see something quick, you can iterate, you can change it. That's going to be really impactful to everybody involved.
Just piggybacking on that answer,
Sure.
talking about collaboration, let's not forget about the data vendors.
Yeah.
When you're talking about underwriting, I mean, you've got so many players out there, different lines, Dun & Bradstreet, LexisNexis, CCC. You're talking about so many different partners who provides value. And with a platform like Uncork, it's so easy to do data enrichment, do integrations, and it kind of seamlessly provides you a platform where the day in the life of an underwriter or an operations person can change overnight.
Yeah, all the manual processes that you can remove and let the underwriters really focus on what they do the best, which is to underwrite the risk best for the company and undertaking that risk. So that's a good point, BK. So I'm going to actually keep building upon that, right? What we are also seeing is there's a lot of manual work that goes into underwriters' life today, including looking through all of this data that they need as part of their underwriting process overall. So data enrichment you already touched about. But a lot of information really comes in still through brokers, by the way, at least in the commercial space. We know that all of that comes in through a lot of documents, emails still, whether we believe it or not. And a lot of documents that come in are like the loss run ratios to exposure documents, to submission documents, to accord forms, to whatnot, right? We are also seeing that AI and ML, artificial intelligence and machine learning, data, both structured and unstructured, is really at the core of these transformation, both in underwriting and claims that we are talking about. And that really, how we think about it, how do you deploy those solutions faster, how do you achieve how do you gain that business value, time to value, and how do you really drive those transformations from the data side of the house, as you just touched upon. Can you highlight a few things on what you're seeing in the market?
Sure. I think one of the biggest benefits of collaboration of industry, tech, SIs coming together is that you are building repeatable solutions. You don't have to, for example, if you've solved a problem at a particular carrier, you don't have to again necessarily do it again for another carrier. You can gain benefits and drive economies of scale, right? So in this whole value chain, there are hotspots or points where the solution has already been solved somewhere else, and you can actually plug and play, and that's where productized offerings comes into play. While there is an angle of building something very specific to a particular carrier or a broker, there are parts that can be plugged in. And that's where we specifically in as part of our journey that I called out earlier, which is specialization, verticalization, productization. As part of our productization journey, we have identified those hotspots and have created offerings that can be plugged in and can easily drive value. One of them is Docify. It's an intelligent document processing platform. What it does is it can ingest a variety of documents that are typically used in the insurance industry. You're talking about loss runs, you're talking about accords, you're talking about policies, quotes, binders, supplemental documents. These are commonly used documents, and most of the carriers typically use it. We've kind of build a platform that can handle them seamlessly from day one. Obviously, there are variations that we need to handle. There are retraining, etc., that you gotta do. But at the end of the day, you can, for a lack of a better word, you can get started in like 30 days from the day you have started talking, right? So that's a platform that we have built, and there are a lot of other players who are doing similar things and identifying similar hotspots. So this platform helps you drive a significant portion of the automation upfront, and then the rest of the pieces you can obviously think about the specific needs of your area, and you can build those solutions. Tomorrow we do have a session. I'll use this moment to ask everybody to join. Tomorrow we do have a session on Docify. Please join us. We will present our platform. So that's one example where you can drive faster path to value through a combination of productized offerings, and then you build bespoke solutions.
Wonderful, thank you. So at this time, I would like to open up to audience here. You have been great audience. Would like to hear any questions that you may have for our panelists here.
Thank you. We're building a product on Cork, and we're trying to use the Uncork for the underwriting engine as well, like the rules and everything else. But I've seen when I talk to people here that most of the implementation that use Uncork, they connect to something in the back end. And I like to understand why, we're doing it differently, and because based on this, we should be able to do it, and everybody else is not. Where is the disconnect?
Sure, I can take that. Oftentimes, those models already exist in the organization. So there's 3 standard patterns. One is if you already have a model, you already have an API, we'll hook into something that exists. If you're using a third-party service and you've built your model there, you've trained it there, we can hook into those set of APIs, those external APIs. Additionally, if you want to build something natively on Uncork, essentially, and use that as a microservice, we can follow that pattern. Traditionally, what we see is that while sometimes we're getting greenfield products, right? For instance, the product I mentioned before, which was the COVID insurance, that logic was built on Uncork because it was light, it was simple, and no API already existed. If you're doing something relatively robust with lots of particular rules around, let's say, certain geos, certain lines of business, composite lines of business, composite risk, all of that, oftentimes those endpoints already exist inside your organization. And so rather than reinvent the wheel, rather than refactor, if you like it and it's working, we're happy to just hook into it and take you as you are, as opposed to having to force your organization to fit sort of our model.
So I heard 2 things, right? One is that if it's easy and quick, you build it in Uncork, but if you already have it.
Yeah.
So what I hope to get from this panel is if it's complex.
Sure.
And you already have it, but you're already building, Uncork platform.
Yeah.
Should you go and build it in Uncork and retire that, underwriting backend and get rid of it? Or still you think that if it's complex, it's better not to do it in Uncork?
It really depends on the appetite for what's the level of ongoing maintenance, what's the ongoing level of delta in the overall platform. A lot of these models, they won't change regularly, or if there is a change, it's in some experience reference table that lives outside of the model. And so the core logic's not actually changing. It's just the data you're feeding into it. And if it's stable and it's sticky, then it's probably, it doesn't really make sense to refactor. If you say, oh, I'm going to be tweaking this every few months, and then I have to go through a full deploy, and I have to do all the other SDLC items around that model, then it makes sense to maybe do the exercise once, bring it all in-house and Uncork, get that visibility, and have people be able to tweak and manage it inside of the Uncork bubble, for lack of a better term. But again, it's going to be a business decision.
Yeah, if I may add, right?
Please.
So if you look at, especially, let's talk about underwriting, right? Your secret sauce lies in the way to evaluate risks, right? That's your sauce, right? So you will obviously keep it updated. You will, obviously work on it, etc. So that you can always integrate with an Uncork platform. Now, whatever you build on top of it, however complex it is, I would recommend that you move to a platform like Uncork. The reason being, if it is complex, you have a huge burden of code management later on if you keep it outside the platform. One of the advantages of using a no-code platform like Uncork is that you don't have to do any code management going forward. You don't have to worry about releases. So, if a carrier needs to think about it, do what you are best at: risk evaluation, pricing, and manage your claims. Right? These are core functions. Rest of the things you can use technology and solve and manage it in the most efficient way. So my recommendation will be, however complex your front end can be, move it to a platform like that.
I have a quick anecdote to add to that. So I was talking to a prospect earlier, and they're saying, "Oh, could you develop all these underwriting rules on Uncork?" And I said, "Sure, give them to me, and I'll let you know, right? I'll give you an assessment." They said, "Well, we have them, but we don't have them. They're written in COBOL, and nobody really knows exactly what's in there. So we need to get somebody to sit we need to have an underwriter and somebody who understands COBOL sit next to each other and go through line for line saying like, oh, this is the rule, write it all down. And so this is obviously, it's not even hyperbole, this is a real story. But it just goes to show like at some point, like the maintenance, the legacy maintenance is gonna outweigh the benefit, even if it is ultra stable. Obviously, they're not touching it regularly. It's living in COBOL. But maybe they're not touching it because touching it is so expensive and annoying and hard. And they say, whatever uplift I'm getting on underwriting is not worth the operational headache to go and move this thing. So who knows?
I would actually add to the same theme. I was going to jump in this. What I've seen in the insurance companies is they have a good policy administration systems in place. And I'm talking about the ones who have invested in the last 40 years developing those policy administration systems. Happens to be in COBOL, in some cases even in assembler code, which has to go back and sort of re-engineering is a much bigger task there. So what we have seen in this case is they don't have a very good underwriting side of the workbench, by the way, written. It's just the policy administration system. So you could actually build underwriting workbench and integrate from upstream systems perspective, coming from brokers that I was talking about earlier, and downstream systems with your policy administration system. So those are some of the examples where it may be difficult, but to me, as both esteemed panelists here already called out, right, you want to move away from that code maintenance, and this is the best platform to go after from really getting rid of that legacy, the tech debt that you have created in the organization, and we have all lived through it.
I just want to add something. So we talked a lot about document ingestion, a lot about AI, about how it's going to help you shorten the whole underwriting life cycle. But there's another important benefit here that I think is worth calling out, and that it's going to fill the top of your funnel. We've seen a lot of times at Uncork, the ease for agents, the ease for brokers to make these submissions is going to increase top line volume, is going to essentially say, so the odds are you want to be able to assess risk better, but you also just want more things in the funnel, because that's just going to give you more things to choose from, more things to bid on, to say, okay, for my limited amount of risk dollars that I have, what are the ops that I really want to go after, with the submissions I really want to price aggressively? And if it's this laborious process where they have to give you 87 documents, they're going back and forth with you for 2-3 weeks, getting it all sorted, it's like brokers are human, right? Agents are human. Like if they're not going to do this with 30 different carriers. And so at the end of the day, making it easy, treating them like the customers, filling the top of your funnel, you're going to see that uplift on the underwriting side as well. And doing it, automating the front end is a huge part of that.
So we have about 2 minutes warning here. We can take one more question, or we can keep talking about this one. Anyone else has a question? Yeah, please.
Front here. In terms of, which is, wait for the mic so the folks at home can hear.
Yeah, so I guess what do you see as the roadmap for Uncork in terms of document ingestion and AI? Do you see, is Uncork partnering with other companies that are in that space, or are you developing your own version of it?
So we're definitely committed to the partnership model. So I've worked with at least 5 or 6 different players in the space, and I can tell you they all have their strengths and weaknesses, whether it comes to different lines, different geographies, different document types. Right? I wish there was a one-size-fits-all. If I get in trouble, if there was one perfect solution, I'd tell you, I promise. But there isn't, is the short of it. And so we are totally agnostic. We can integrate with all of them. And we actually recommend that our clients that go, say, on a line-specific basis, on a business-specific basis, look for the provider that makes the most sense for you.
Yeah, but of course we have a solution to talk about tomorrow. So. Any other questions here? I think we are at the time anyways, right? I'm going to get my last-minute warning here. So thank you. Thank you, panelists, Andrew and Bhaskar, for sharing your thoughts and insights on industry collaborations. And we'll be actually hanging around. You have been a great audience. But if you have any other questions that you want us to grab in the side here, we will be very happy to spend some more time with you. Looking forward to our session tomorrow. And we'll be demoing. And if you want to know more about Docufy, please come in And any other collaboration mindsets that you have. You're collaborating with so many insurance carriers, brokers, and technology and partners right now that we can always find some win-win situation for all of us. So with that, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.